A happy Friday to everyone. What is going on? Wanted to do another Brap Rap. What's up, my man? Xbot448 in the house. He says he's at work and it's slow right now, so he can tune in to Enrique's rant. I appreciate it, brother. Great to see you on the panel. We have Buck Rogers as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for popping by and saying hello on this lovely, lovely Friday. Want to do a quick rant. As we all know, the much anticipated Death Stranding. Well, the reviews have come out. The embargo was lifted today. Actually, I started seeing, now I'm on East Coast time, Eastern Standard Time, and I started seeing the reviews come in. I want to say they were dropping like at 3 o'clock in the morning. So midnight Pacific Standard Time, the reviews were being released already, and I was kind of surprised by how quickly they were releasing. And Xbox says hashtag King Neutral. Yeah, I was kind of surprised, really surprised by how quickly the reviews were coming out. You know, as I'm seeing them like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep last night. We had like some bad storms come through the area. It was pretty windy outside. Still is today, but I think that probably woke me up. But I started seeing some of the reviews, and you know, I think the first review I saw was the I want to say it was the GameSpot review that gave the game a 9. And so I'm like, okay, reviews are coming in. I thought, you know, I guessed 91 Metacritic for Death Stranding. And I want to say right now, let's see, let's check the latest Metacritic standings. Because I think last time I checked, it was at 84. Yes, so Metacritic right now, Death Stranding is at 84. Not a bad score, not a bad aggregate score for the game, but I will say the reviews have been kind of mixed a little bit. Most of them have been positive, but you know what, guys? I get the sense that this game is going to be a little polarizing for some of the gaming community. You know, we've seen it before. We've seen sometimes there's a disconnect on Metacritic with what the media sites are saying versus what the users or gamers are saying. So you'll see like a Metacritic score for gamers on that site. So you know, I wonder if there's going to be kind of that disconnect that we see sometimes, you know, where maybe a game scores a higher Metacritic, but then you see a lower aggregate score for the for gamers or for the users, or maybe you see, you know, maybe it's the same score, but I do think this game's going to be polarizing, though. I'm going to pull up some of the. The one website actually gave Death Stranding a 35. They said Death Stranding is an irredeemable piece of garbage as it serves as a warning to publishers who give developers carte blanche to create art. You know, we the running joke here on Brap was that the running joke on Brap was that you never go full on Kojima. You got to keep him in check. And I've seen that. I've seen people out there on the Twitter saying, "Hey, you know what, guys? Maybe you know, maybe there's something to be said here for maybe Konami was behind kind of keeping Kojima in line. If you look at Metal Gear Solid 5, Metal Gear Solid 5 scored much higher, had a Metacritic in the 90s, was receiving 10s across the board from a multitude of gaming sites. IGN gave it a 10. IGN actually gave IGN gave Death Stranding a 6.8, which again is not. If you're a fan of action adventure games, if you're a fan of open world games, open sandbox world games, the 6.8 is probably going to be a game that's going to be more appealing to you. Probably not have that broad mass appeal that you see games that are in that like mid 8 to 9 echelon in terms of aggregate scores. 6.8 is probably going to be a game that's going to be more appealing to you. Probably not have that broad mass appeal that you see games that are in that like mid 8 to 9 echelon in terms of aggregate scores. but it's it's Glorious War says publisher shouldn't fund art. Then Ori 2 is canceled. Yeah, I don't look. I don't agree with that sentiment by that reviewer. It's his or her opinion. It's fine. It is what it is. Um, let's see here. So that was the lowest one that I saw. Look, there's a couple hundreds out there. Trusted reviews said Death Stranding is unlike anything else out there right now. It's huge, innovative, and utterly unashamed in what it wants to be. But I'm still hearing people saying they don't know what it wants to be. That there's this, some people are saying, look, this game, the narrative, the voice acting, the characters are all, um, it creates a high level of immersion, but but the the traversing and the grinding just doesn't feel that rewarding. And some people in some reviews were saying that they still at the end of the game didn't really get a good sense of what the game is actually about. So I really think this game's going to be polarizing, guys. I'm being serious. I don't know how this is going to be received in the gaming community. I personally think it's going to be received much differently. But I will say that maybe perhaps there's something to be said about Konami kind of maybe putting the reins on Kojima. Like my man Slomo says, you never go full on Kojima. Push Square, it's a PlayStation site, gave it 100. Screen Rant gave it 100. It says Death Stranding is dizzying, unshakable in its belief. It is doing something worthwhile. I have heard though, one of the more consistent praises that I've read regarding Death Stranding is its use of motion capture, of technology. That's one thing, and even Digital Foundry said that as well. Hold on here a sec, guys. My Outlook pop up just came out. Hold on just a sec here, guys. Got to check my email real quick. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I've got a hard stop in about 20 minutes. I have a call I need to hop on. But Hazard Man says not going to be polarizing. Oh wow, all pro PlayStation sites. Not all pro PlayStation sites though gave this game 100. EGM gave this game 100. Digitally Downloaded gave it 100. Gaming Trend gave it 100. Screen Rant gave it 100. Never heard of the 6 Access. They gave it 100. Daily Star gave it 100. Daily Star says Death Stranding is the most unique big budget game I've ever played. A socially minded injection of inventive ideas into a genre that has long survived by being lazy and brutish. The ambitious formula flipper is brimming with empathy and carefully courts cinematic influences, an ensemble cast in a world of eye-watering scale, delivering a sticky gameplay loop to tie it all together and create a console genre-defining experience. But one of the things that I've heard, and why the story and the game being very ambitious and creative is that the gameplay really doesn't do a good job of holding together the game, at least in the opinions of some of the reviewers who were giving the game like an 8 or 7 or 6. Let's see here. PlayStation Lifestyle gave it a 95. IGN Japan gave it a 95. COD Connected gave it 93. Big shout out to Glorious War with the awesome $5 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Gloria says, don't take fanboys as a consensus for good or bad games. Death Stranding is new and strange, and Gears 5 is good, but the same fare, and that's why they have the same score. GameSpot gave it a 90. I was actually really surprised by GameSpot's review. They tend to, I think, review pretty harshly. They gave it a 90. I think their biggest complaint was they felt the end boss, the primary antagonist, was very lackluster. Not just really didn't live up to the rest of the game. What's going on, Saltius? What's going up, Graphic God? Hey, big shout out to everyone in the live chat, guys. Hazard Man, The Real Coolito, No Russian. Thank you guys. Some guy. Thank you guys for coming by and hanging out with me. Hit that like button if you guys haven't done so already. I really appreciate the support. But let's see. GameSpot gave it a 90. Says Death Stranding is a hard game to absorb. There are many intertwining threads to its plot and silly names, corny moments, and heavy exposition belay an otherwise very simple message that comes through much more clearly in the game's more mundane moments when you find a desperately needed ladder left behind by another player or receive a letter from an NPC thanking you for your efforts. It's positive without ignoring pain. In fact, it argues in both its story and its gameplay that adversity itself is what makes things worth doing in life and worth living. It's a game that requires patience, compassion, and love, and also one that we really need right now. It's kind of interesting. There's definitely some, I think, some political undertones to this game of reconnecting America. We know what's kind of going on globally when you think about, some of the things that are going on in the Middle East. Some of if you want to look at some of the political division here in the U.S., how we're very polarized here in the U.S., I think, politically at least. And now we're potentially going through an impeachment process. But I did hear before the reviews that this game was going to tackle some of the political undertones or things that are currently happening today in today's world. So perhaps that is what GameSpot is referring to with, what this game is doing and why we really need this kind of game right now. So let's see here. Let's go to some of the other reviews here. I want to go to, these are all 90s. Let's see here. Easy Allies. Death Stranding is an easy Allies. By the way, Jeff Keighley's affiliated with them. Death Stranding is an easy game to complain about or even be angry at, but it's also a lot more fascinating than many other more conservative works. So it's interesting. It's almost like I feel like I think we talked about this on BRAP, where we kind of thought that maybe this game, from a gameplay perspective, maybe not reinventing the wheel here or doing anything overly genre defying from a gameplay mechanics perspective. I mean, I think we probably would draw that conclusion anyway by looking at some of the cutscenes that we saw, some of the videos that we saw Kojima put out with the ladder, or Norman Reedus traversing, carrying supplies on his back, the Conan O'Brien thing, and Jeff Keighley, and the otter outfit allowing you to swim better. Saltiest Gaming says trying to escape politics when playing games, not get more. Hey man, that's a very I hear what you're saying, Salty. I mean, I think that I could certainly respect that point of view. I think some of us don't want to see maybe political commentary in gaming because we see it, especially here in the U.S. We see it on a consistent basis. It floods social media. It's on the news a lot. Obviously, our current president of the United States tends to talk a lot on social media. So I get that, but art often mimics reality, and I think at times we're going to see artists, and Kojima would identify himself as an artist, I would imagine. We're going to see these individuals make political commentaries in their games, create some kind of awareness. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I get it. I get your point too. It's nice to sometimes take a break from some of the things that we want to escape in gaming that often is mimicked in gaming. The Guardian gave it an 80. Says all above, Death Stranding is a sermon on the importance of belief, the power of putting one foot in front of another when hope looks lost, and the belief that things will get better. I think that is part of that political undertone that I heard about with this game from people who had played it before the embargo went up. By working together, a series of small intentional steps can make a difference. And in this often fractured, angry, confusing world, that's as hopeful as it gets. And I think that speaks to also just not just what's going on here in the U.S., but I think what's going on globally. With you see what's going on in Syria. I think playing Call of Duty, Modern Warfare really made me kind of reflect a lot of kind of what's going on globally, kind of what's going on in Syria, kind of here in the U.S. But there is something to be said, I think, for coming together, and you could probably apply those ideas in any community, in the gaming community, if you will. I often think that we're polarized over trivial things such as who's a Microsoft guy and who's a Sony guy. I always say that with Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, we're not Sony guys, we're not Nintendo guys, we're not Xbox guys, we're not Microsoft guys, we're not Google guys, but we're gaming guys. It doesn't matter where we game, we get together because we collectively love gaming, which is trivial because I see people arguing on the social media platforms or on Twitter about the same thing that they love, which is, and it usually involves standing over a certain company. But at the end of the day, the core of what we're arguing about is the one thing that we have in common, which is just mind-boggling. But that's for another BRAP rant. Let's see here. I want to go to Attack of the Destructoid gave it an 80. Death Stranding is not the overly strange, inaccessible, walled guarding the marketing campaign has made it out to be. That's kind of good to hear. Attack of the Fanboy said Death Stranding is equal parts amazing and exasperating. It features stellar acting, graphics, and sound. It's revelation in many of its gameplay mechanics, while also relying on typically frustrating things like fetch quest and inventory management. What it does without exception, though, is meld the gameplay with the message, creating something truly unique in the end. And they gave it an 80. And the other thing that I've seen, some people saying that the game is boring, repetitive, confusing. I've seen that. Some people felt like it's more of a walking simulator where you're grinding out, you're traversing across this great landscape, and then you hit these cutscenes and these very dramatic cutscenes that really kind of tap into the emotion of the characters and kind of pull you in as a gamer, and then that ends, and then you got to go back into this fetch quest, into this grind, and so maybe perhaps there's some pacing issues with the game in that regard. But let's go to Digital Trends, who gave it a 70. Digital Trends said Death Stranding is the tree of life of video games. Some people will hail it as a technical and narrative masterpiece that pushes the medium forward. Others will simply be bored to tears by the slow, repetitive gameplay. That is one of the, if there's criticisms of the game, again, that's one of the things that I've seen about this game, that despite some of the technical things that it does well, the narrative, that's all great, but then the other things just don't work well with the game. OBJ Don says, I'm just trying to figure out how first gamers tell 70s are bad and now 80s are bad too. What's next? Just to clarify, guys, I'm not saying the 70s or 80s are bad for this game. I even said it earlier, if 68 from IGN, if you're somebody who likes open world sandbox games, this is going to be a game that you're probably going to enjoy. But if that's not your cup of tea, it's probably not a game that's going to transcend a variety of different tastes of gamers. So Game Informer gave it a 70. They said the real issue is that Death Stranding's gameplay really is as simple as it appears to be, which I talked about earlier with what we saw with some of the cutscenes, some of the gameplay that Kojima showed us. Game Informer says the story, combat, and lackluster mission objectives aren't satisfying enough to anchor the title and get players invested. By the way, guys, I'm only reading like the first couple paragraphs of these reviews. I would encourage you guys, if you're really interested in getting a little more meat with regards to the reviews, definitely go to the go to Metacritic, pull up the reviews, but definitely click on the links for the full for the actual full review, so you can actually get a better idea of what what the reviewer thought about the game. That's interesting. Like the premise of the game is to rebuild America. There's some kind of mysterious event that blew a crater in the middle of the country. It basically destroyed society as we know it. Sam treks across the land delivering supplies. He connects pockets of survivors, communities, and this really requires him. This is why you see him carrying those packages, because that's his job. His job is to, take these packages and deliver them, to connect people. Let's go to US Gamer. US Gamer is the website that gave Gears 5 a 50 that the fanboys got very upset about. We kind of laughed at maybe US Gamer because they also gave Horizon Zero Dawn a pretty bad score too. But they actually gave Death Stranding a 70. US Gamer says Death Stranding might be Kojima's boldest game to date. I don't think there's any questions about that. That this is probably his boldest game to date. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. I think just based on what we've seen, and kind of what we're seeing in terms of the reviews. So US Gamer goes on to say, either way, its originality outweighs its sometimes exhausting structure and poor pacing. I just mentioned pacing earlier, but only just. Maybe not a game I would recommend to everyone, but certainly one of the most interesting games of 2019. So, Metro gave it a 70, said a work of unbridled ambition and imagination, but also a pretentious, contrived, and frequently quite dull gameplay experience. Just Death Stranding is peak Hideo Kojima. Hardcore Gamer says if Death Stranding wasn't so padded out, it could have been something special. Instead, we're left with a repetitive letdown that's far more enjoyable to watch than play. IGN, who gave it a 68, said there's a fascinating, fleshed-out world of supernatural science fiction to enjoy across its sprawling and spectacular map. So it's a real shame that it's all been saddled on a gameplay backbone that struggles to adequately support its weight over the full course of the journey. Let me go back to some of these hundreds, because I don't want you guys to think that this is all negative. Gaming Age gave it 100. Says I was hooked from the first time I saw the title screen until the credits rolled 72 hours later. Death Stranding is immensely satisfying and everything I could have hoped for and more from Kojima Productions. Game Planet gave it 100. Says while Death Stranding will surely be the most divisive game of this generation, I said that earlier, there's no arguing that it offers new ideas on pushing the medium forward and shows that games don't always typically have to be fun. The story is beautifully presented and is surprisingly restrained and focused for a Kojima title. All the actors put on amazing performances, and while its gameplay will be too slow for many, those willing to peel back the layers will discover a thoughtfully designed experience that will leave you ruminating for weeks after finishing. Well, I'll say this, guys. I think that, a couple things here, and just reading these reviews, I think there's a couple things that I'm taking away. One, that this game really pushes the boundaries, and it thinks outside the box, which is nice. I think that's nice. I don't necessarily want games to fall, to feel like, everything that I've ever played previously, or to follow, the same path of, whatever genre they sit in. And I think that that's kind of what I'm taking away from some of these reviews, that the strength of this game is really the imagination, the characters, the world design, and that potentially this game is pushing the medium forward. While you may not execute, perfectly on some of the gameplay mechanics and some of the grinding that I've heard in some of the reviews, there is something there to be said for Kojima potentially pushing the creative envelope, which I think is cool. I think that's a good thing. You know, so right now it's 84 Metacritic. So look, it's getting. I mean, overall, most of the reviews have been pretty positive. It just sounds like, again, like I said earlier, this game is going to be divisive. It's going to be a polarizing game. It sounds like it's going to be one of those games where you either love it or you're kind of like, this is okay. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this quick Brap rant. I just wanted to talk quickly about this game. Now, this game, in terms of Metacritic, is not, before anyone says, oh, this is Kojima's worst critically rated game, it is not. Zone of the Enders, which is a game that I enjoyed, I think Metacritic, they're like 79. I thought that game was underrated, but one of my favorite Kojima experiences. So, and I thought Metal Gear Solid 5 was not a 10. I would have given it like an 8.8, or I'd give it a 9. But I definitely think Metal Gear Solid 5 was a 10. So, yeah, we're definitely going to talk about this game more on BRAP this coming Wednesday, and hopefully have some gameplay impressions for you guys coming up next Friday as well. So, everyone, that is a wrap. Thank you guys for coming out and hanging out with me, and hit that like button. And we're definitely going to chat more about Death Stranding in the next couple of days. And guys, leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the reviews, whether you agree or disagree with them. And if you're someone who's on the fence with this game, if you're still planning on getting it, and if you're someone who's planning on getting it, let me know if you were, if maybe the reviews have kind of swayed you to maybe hold off for a little bit, or if you read the reviews and you're like, the hell with it, I'm still getting it. Let me know in the comments section below as well. I'm still planning on getting this game next Friday. It is coming out on PC as well. I'm not going to wait for the PC release. I'm going to pick this bad boy up on Friday because I'm definitely interested to see what Kojima pulled off with Death Stranding. The guy is, maybe not the best storyteller, but definitely someone who's very creative, definitely thinks outside the box. So I'm willing to bet that I can guarantee that we'll all have a unique gameplay experience with Death Stranding. Whether or not we all agree that we like it, I think we'll agree that it's kind of be something that's really outside the box. So, all right, guys, everyone have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend. Who knows? Maybe I'll do another Brap rant this weekend. But I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. I appreciate it. Peace.